All right. So the very first thing we want to start out is we want to start out with the commutative property. All right, and the commutative property is that property that says it doesn't really matter what order your multiplication is in, it will work either way. So this one you can switch the order of the factors, and it does not change the answer. So it does not change the product. Okay? So in commutative property, you can switch the order of the factors, but it does not change the product. So what does that mean? That means 3 times 6 is 18. That's a true fact, that 3 times 6 is 18. So if I can switch these, that also means that 6 times 3 is 18. And that's how you do your fact families. So commutative property is 100% fact family. Okay? That's all that is fact families. So that's the property that we're going to talk about today, or that we did talk about today. So now we're going to get a little harder. All right, now we're going to actually look at a multiplication problem, and we're going to solve it with the area model that we did in 4th grade, and we're going to solve it with the standard form that we're going to have you guys be switching to in 5th grade. All right? All right. So let's start with 435 times 62. Okay? And we're going to do this 2 different ways. We're going to do it area model, and then we're going to do it standard form so that you can see the correlation between the two. All right? So let's start with our area model. When we start with our area model, remember from last year, we take our first number and we break that up into our expanded forms. We have our 400, we have our 30, and our 5. Okay? So all you're doing is taking that into expanded form. And we're going to draw our rectangle. And the reason it has 3 boxes is because we have 3 places in our expanded form. All right? The next one is our second number, and that's the one you take down. So we're going to put that into expanded form. And that one has 2 boxes because there are 2 numbers. Okay? And hopefully you all remember how to do that from last year. All right. So in this box, I'm going to do my 60 row first. So I'm going to say 60 times, and I go up above it, so 400. And I'm going to continue with my 60, so 60 times 30, because 30 is up above it. Again, still in that 60 row, so 60 times 5. All right, so now let's solve for that. What is 6 times 4? Absolutely, 24. And then you would count your zeros. And in this box, there is 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I would say 1, 2, 3 zeros. All right. So what is 6 times 3? And that is absolutely 18. And in this box, I have 1, 2 zeros. So I would say 1, 2 zeros. And then in the last box, what is what is 6 times 5? Absolutely 30, but I still have to add this other 0 that's in that box, so that would make that box 300. All right, now let's go down to our 2 row, and we would do 2 times, up at the top of this box is 400, and then 2 times up atop of this box is a 30, and then I'm going to take 2 times 5 because that's up at the top of the box. Absolutely. And so now I would solve that. And I would say 2 times 4 is 8, and there are 1, 2 zeros. So 1, 2 zeros. And then 2 times 3 is 6, 1 0. And 2 times 5 is 10, and there's no additional zeros to add. So now in this box, I have to add all of these partial products up. So I'm going to come over here onto my paper. I'm going to slide this up just a little bit so you guys can see. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add all of these partial products. So I'm going to start with my largest number. So I'm going to say, and the reason I start with my largest number is so that I can make sure everything after that is lined up in the ones column. So this one has 1, 2 zeros, an 8, and a 1. So I would say 1, 2 zeros, an 8, and a 1. So you always want to line up in that ones column. Then I have my 300, so 0, 0, 3. And then I have 800, so 0, 0, 8. And then I have 60, and then I have 10. And I have to add all of these partial products up. All right, so the good thing is in my ones column, I have all zeros. So I have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, so that equals 0. So then I have 0, 0, 0, 0, 6 plus 1, and 6 plus 1 is 7. And then I have 0 plus 8 plus 3 plus 8. Well, I know that 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 3 more is going to be 19. So I'm going to drop my 9, carry my 1. Now I have a 1 plus a 4 plus a 1. So 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 1 more is 6. And then I have 2 plus absolutely nothing would be 2. So when I do it with my partial products, I get 26,970. All right, so that's area model. So now let's jump into standard algorithm and look at the difference and how they correlate, because there's definitely going to be some correlations between them that you will see that is the same. All right. So I'm going to write it over here. I'm going to write 435 times 62. All right. So here's how it goes. So I'm going to start with that 2. So I know last time we started with the 60, but this time we're going to start with that 2. And it's going to run very, very similar. So I'm going to say 2 times 5 is still 10. All right, so I drop my 0 and I carry my 1 up to the tens column. So that's where that 1 gets carried to. It gets carried over there to that tens column. So then I say 2 times 3, because that's the next number. And really, I'm doing it times the 30. But just like last time when I just went 2 times 3 and then added the 0, I'm doing the same thing. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus this 1 makes 7, And that's really 70, but I'm putting the 7 in the tens column because 7 tens is 70. Okay, last one. I'm going to do 2 times 4. And 2 times 4 is 8. But because that 4 is in the hundreds column, that really is, it really is 8 hundreds because you're actually multiplying in that 800. So here what we've got right now is just these 3 numbers added together. So if you look back at what we did just a few minutes ago, you would have your 800 plus your 60 plus your 10, and that should equal a total of 870. So there's where your correlation is. This is breaking it up into its places. This is keeping it all together, but you end up with the same partial product. All right, so with that being said, now we have to jump to multiplying by 60. That 6 is in the tens column, so it really is the 60. So we all know that when we multiply by something that ends in 0, you always have to end it in a 0, which is why we put that 0 there. Because we are moving over to the tens column, but we know anything times a multiple of 10 ends in a 0. So we're just going to start with that 0 already being there. All right? So now we're going to do just like we did before. We're going to take this 6 and we're going to multiply it by our digits on the top row. So 6 times 5 is 30, just like it was up here. But see, if I put my 30, I still have that extra 0. So I'm going to drop my 0 for my 30, and I'm going to carry my 3. And I'm going to circle it so that I know that I add. For me, yes, Kristlyn, absolutely. For me, I've already used this one, so I go ahead and I cross it out because I've already used it, and I don't want to make a mistake and add it again. So because that was part of my 2, I'm going to go ahead and X it out. So then I say 6 times 3 is 18 plus 3 more. So what would that be? 6 times 3 is 18 plus that 3 more. What would that be? Absolutely 21. So I'm going to drop this 1 and I'm going to carry this 2 and I'm going to circle it so that I know it has to be added. All right. So I'm going to do 6 times 4 is 24 plus 2 more. So 24 plus 2 would be what? It absolutely would be 26. So I'm going to write my 26 down because I have nowhere to place it up above because there's no more digits. So now I can add these 2 partial products. And this row of partial products, this row that we just found, is the same as adding these 3. So now I can just add these 2 instead of having to add this whole column. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 0 is 7. 8 plus 1 is 9. 6 plus nothing is 6. And then 2 plus nothing is 2. And look at that. We got the same answer. So there's a definite correlation between what we're doing here. Remember, this 870 is just adding this together. This 26,100 is adding this together. And you get the same total answer.